The U.S. can reach you anywhere. Hero 39. Tonight, we follow that strike, how it started, what hit, why it matters. Hero 40. If you want clear facts with no noise, like this video, subscribe and press the bell. Stay to the end to learn the exact bomb, how it works, and what changed after. The Red Sea looks calm on a map. It is not. At its south end sits the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. It is a narrow gate between Africa and Arabia. Most ships that move between Asia and Europe pass here. In early 2023, this gate carried about 12% of the world's seaborne oil and 8% of the world's LNG. That is why it matters. If this gate is unsafe, ships must sail the long way around Africa. Time and money go up fast. Prices follow. U.S. Energy Information Administration. In late 2023, the Houthi movement in Yemen began to attack ships. They used drones. They used cruise missiles. They used anti-ship ballistic missiles. They said they would hit Israeli ships and ships linked to Israel. In practice, many flags and companies were at risk. Crews took fire. Some ships were damaged and a few sank. More than a year later, the attacks have not stopped. The recent news is still full of strikes, fires, and rescue calls at sea. The region stays on edge. The Associated Press +2. The Associated Press +2. To protect the lane, the United States built a coalition. It stood up Operation Prosperity Guardian in December 2023. Partners joined: the UK, Bahrain, Canada, Denmark, Greece, the Netherlands, and others at sea. These navies brought destroyers, frigates, and aircraft. The job was clear: keep trade moving, shoot down threats, and, when ordered, hit launch sites and command nodes ashore. The operation has shifted over time, but the core mission stayed the same: defend ships and deter more shots. Wikipedia. Daily life on the water changed. Navy ships steamed in tight patterns and kept radars hot. Watch teams tracked drones and missiles. Combat information centers ran at high tempo. When threats popped up, the ships fired SM-2s, SM-6s, ESSMs, and RAMs. Fighters and helicopters added another layer. Electronic warfare and decoys helped. The goal was simple: stop the inbound, every time. These lessons are now taught across the fleet. The Red Sea became a live classroom for modern surface war. USNI News. Defense at sea was not enough. Launch crews ashore could reload and shoot again. So planners mapped the kill chain on land. They looked for radars, fiber lines, storage bunkers, and leadership sites. They studied mountain valleys, wadis, and rocks that could hide gear. They flagged caves and reinforced rooms cut into slopes. These are hard targets. Concrete, rock, and depth protect them. Simple bombs do little. The shock fades. The structure lives. To make a functional kill, the strike must punch deep and break what makes the site work. That is the role of a bunker buster. In May 2024, reports said a 5,000-pound GBU-72 penetrator destroyed an underground facility in Yemen. This bomb is built to break through rock and concrete before it explodes. It is guided to the aim point and uses a fuse that waits until the bomb is inside. That report signaled a shift. It told adversaries that hardened sites were no longer safe. It told partners that deep targets were on the table. It told the crews at sea that someone was hunting the source, not just the shot. Wikipedia. By October 2024, another message landed. Open reporting said B-2 stealth bombers took part in Yemen strikes against underground targets. The B-2 is built for long-range, low-observable penetration. It can carry heavy, precise weapons. Its presence is strategic signaling. It means the United States will bring its top-tier assets when needed. In simple terms, if a bunker matters, the U.S. can reach it. These reports shaped expectations for later operations. The Aviationist +1. Through 2024 and into 2025, the pattern held. Houthis kept pressure on shipping. Navies kept defending. Insurance costs rose. Some shippers rerouted around the Cape of Good Hope. Transit times stretched by weeks. Even when headlines went quiet for a few days, the air crews, sailors, and analysts did not stop. Threats kept coming. Fresh incidents in October 2025 showed how thin the margin can be. A single strike or fire can still put a crew into lifeboats and turn a ship into a hazard to navigation. The lane is open, but it is not safe. AP News +1. This is the frame for the night in question. On land, a network of tunnels, reinforced rooms, and covered entries supported launches. Underground spaces stored drones, parts, fuel, and electronics. Some rooms likely served as command posts. Cables and antennas linked them to spotters and operators. The geography favored the defender: folded terrain, hard rock, and many hide sites. The enemy adapted. They moved assets, decoyed targets, and mixed military sites near civilian areas. This made targeting slow and careful. The aim was high effect with low collateral risk. The coalition's answer used two tracks. First, constant defense at sea kept ships alive. Every drone or missile they killed was one less threat to a crew. Second, precision strikes ashore worked to break the chain at its roots. That meant hitting radars, storage, and command nodes. It also meant going after hardened spaces that normal bombs could not kill. To do that, planners reached for deep penetration tools and the platforms that can deliver them. The information war ran in parallel. Claims and counterclaims flooded social media. Photos of fragments and craters sparked fast takes. Some were true, some were not. Analysts had to sort debris and identify parts. Stormbreaker glide bomb fragments, for example, look dramatic but do not prove a bunker buster was used. Real answers take careful study, heat signature data, and time. This fog of war is normal now. It is part of every strike and every headline. It shapes how people see the fight, even when the facts are still forming. So the stage was set. A vital sea lane under attack, a coalition under strain, an enemy dug into the earth, and a toolkit built for hard targets. The next step would be a choice: keep intercepting and accept endless volleys, or send a deeper message: hit what the enemy thinks is untouchable. The night you are about to hear about shows what that choice looks like in practice. 4 hours before the strike, the quiet work began. Eyes in the sky watched the valleys and ridges. Crews checked old images and matched them to new ones. Patterns stood out. A gate opened at odd hours. A truck backed into rock and did not return for a long time. Antennas near a hillside pointed in new directions. Heat signatures flared and then went dark. Analysts marked each clue. The picture grew. A tunnel mouth here, a covered shaft there, a cable run that linked a ridge to a low building with thick walls. Targeteers drew lines on maps and set aim points. Lawyers and commanders checked the plans and the rules. Collateral risk was scored. The plan moved forward. 2 hours before the strike, orders moved across secure nets. Crews briefed. Timelines were set. Each minute had a task. Some platforms would blind sensors. Some would jam. Some would watch. One would hit. The strike window had to fit weather, winds, and satellite paths. It had to fit shipping movements at sea. It had to fit the rhythm of local power and prayer when people move and when they sleep. Deconfliction was tight. The airspace would be clean. The sea lanes would be clear. The package was locked in. 60 minutes before, shaping began. Signals masked other signals. A radar in one valley saw nothing for a moment and then saw too much. Decoys pulled eyes where they did not matter. A cyber push probed a link that mattered. A relay hesitated. The human side mattered too. Runners who normally followed a pattern stayed put. Lights that normally blinked did not blink. The target went quiet. Quiet is a tell. 30 minutes before, launch cycles at sea kept turning. Defensive watches stayed up. The ships had their own war to fight. They could not pause. Any inbound drone or missile could still come, but the ships also opened a path. Precision weapons reached inland and trimmed away threats that shield bunkers. A relay dish cracked. A known lookout point went dark. Nothing was random. The goal was to cut the nerves but leave the bones. The hard target would take a different tool. 10 minutes before, the delivery platform reached the release area. Altitude, speed, and angle were precise. The bomb bay or pylon release checks were firm. Fuel state was green. Winds were good. The crew spoke little. The cockpit was calm. They had done this many times in training. They knew the math. The weapon had the guidance it needed. It knew where the rock was strong and where the aim point sat on that rock. The fuse delay was set. The machine would do the rest. At time 0, the weapon left the aircraft. It fell and flew. It corrected small errors. It aimed for a spot on the slope that looked like a normal face of stone. It was not. Behind that face ran a chamber where men worked and talked and stored parts. The casing hit with speed and mass. The nose punched through stone and concrete layers. It kept going. The delay fuse counted down as the body dug in. Then the charge fired inside the target. Overpressure slammed through rooms. Concrete spalled. Metal bent. Doors tore from frames. Dust and smoke filled the shaft and choked the air. If fuel or munitions were stored nearby, secondary blasts followed. If electronics lined the walls, they died in place. The aim was a functional kill, not rubble for the camera, silence in the network. 5 minutes after, the outside world only saw a cough of dust and a slow plume. From above, sensors read heat and shape. They read the way a plume moves when air is pulled from deep inside a hill. They read the flicker of small fires that start when cables burn. They read the absence of movement at known entry points. No runners, no vehicle lights, no radio calls that match the pattern. Inside the operations rooms far away, teams began the first cut of battle damage assessment. They compared heat maps. They compared old comm nets to the new silence. They marked confidence levels, low, medium, high. They did not guess. They noted what they knew and what they did not. 30 minutes after, local messaging began. Claims appeared online. Some said nothing happened. Some said a civilian house was hit. Some said a fuel depot was destroyed. The truth would take time. The strike cell logged each claim. It checked the aim point and the blast models. It checked the timing of the videos. It checked the angles of the shadows. It checked the grid lines. It looked for the tells that show old footage used as new. This process mattered. The military fight is also an information fight. Accuracy counts. Patience counts more. 2 hours after, more sensors passed overhead. The heat still bled from the hillside. The plume thinned. A small group moved near a side path and then backed away. A vehicle idled and then turned around. No steady stream of people came to work. No regular routine returned. Comms that usually came alive at a known hour did not light up. The strike cell raised its confidence. The underground site was hurt. It might be denied for days or longer. It might be lost for good. The difference would show in launch rates later. 6 hours after, shipping advisories updated. The sea lane stayed open. Crews kept watches. The coalition did not cheer. It did not posture. It stayed alert. The enemy still had launchers, stockpiles, and will. One strike does not end a campaign. But it can change how the enemy thinks. It can force them to move, spend, and hide. That creates friction. Friction slows war. By the end of the day, the messages from capitals were steady and short. The operation was described in careful terms. The purpose was stated: protect shipping and reduce attacks. There was no talk of victory. There was talk of pressure and patience. This is the nature of a modern hard-target strike. It is slow to plan and quick to hit. It is quiet from the outside and loud where it matters. It tells anyone who hides in rock that rock is not safety. It tells crews at sea that someone is reaching upstream to cut the flow of fire. It tells the world that even in a noisy war, precision can speak in a low voice and still be heard. Technical details. 16 Waqar 24 hours. Start with the target. A hardened site is rock, concrete, steel, and depth. Engineers dig into hillsides. They cut tunnels and chambers. They pour thick concrete. They add blast doors. They run power and fiber lines under cover. This is called a hard target. It survives shock. It hides heat. It masks radio noise. To defeat it, a bomb must penetrate first, then detonate inside. That is the core idea. The GBU-72 is built for that job. It is a 5,000-pound advanced penetrator. Think of a dense metal body shaped to drive through stone and reinforced concrete. Guidance uses the JDAM family brain. GPS and inertial sensors steer the tail. A delay fuse waits until the bomb is inside the target before firing the main charge. Tests at Eglin Air Force Base in 2021 proved safe release and controlled flight on an F-15E. The Air Force said the program used big ground shots to measure blast and fragments, and the GBU-72 aims to outperform the older GBU-28 in lethality and control. In plain words, it goes deeper, hits harder, and explodes where it counts. Eglin Air Force Base. +1. How does penetration work? Mass x velocity. The bomb's strong nose and thick casing act like a giant nail. On impact, energy focuses on a small area. The casing stays intact long enough to plow through layers. The fuse counts time or senses deceleration. It triggers after the bomb passes rock and concrete. The blast inside causes overpressure. Walls spall. Steel bends. Doors fail. Cables burn. Even if the roof holds, the site can be functionally killed. That means no power, no airflow, no safe access, and no working electronics. Why not use the biggest bomb every time? There is an even larger weapon, the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, MOP. It weighs about 30,000 pounds. Only the B-2 can carry it in combat today. MOP is made to crack the deepest bunkers on Earth. It is long, heavy, and GPS-guided. Reports and estimates vary on exact penetration numbers, but it is designed for extreme depth. That said, MOP is rare, costly, and sized for a different problem set. It is not the first choice for most targets in Yemen. In this theater, the 5,000-pound class is often the better fit. Enough punch, more flexibility, and more sortie options. Wikipedia. Now the delivery platform. A stealth bomber like the B-2 Spirit can haul heavy precision weapons across oceans. It flies long range, refuels in the air, and slips past radars by design. The U.S. Air Force calls it a multi-role bomber with a large payload and a mission to hit through previously impenetrable defenses. In simple terms, it reaches far and gets close enough for accurate release. If a mission needs stealth, deep reach, and hard target effects, the B-2 fits that role. Air Force +1, but the Navy also shapes the air picture. Tomahawk cruise missiles come from destroyers and submarines. They fly low. They follow terrain. Modern Block V. Tomahawks add better navigation and in-flight retargeting. Some variants add a maritime strike mode for moving ships. Others use a multi-effects warhead for harder land targets. Range is on the order of about 900–1,000 miles for many land attack shots, with exact numbers depending on the version. In a campaign, Tomahawks can cut radars, command nodes, and air defenses. That opens a path and reduces risk for follow-on strikes, including bunker hits. AP News +1. Defense at sea relies on layered air defense. The SM-6 missile is a key part. It reaches far, guides with an active radar seeker, and can hit fast threats in the terminal phase. It has downrange and cross-range intercept records, and it works against cruise missiles, aircraft, and some ballistic threats in terminal mode. In short words, it buys time and space for ships and crews. The more threats it stops, the fewer get through. That matters when the enemy fires swarms. Wikipedia put the pieces together. ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, maps the bunker. Tomahawks and other precision weapons trim away eyes and radios. Electronic warfare blinds and confuses. Then a penetrator like the GBU-72 arrives to finish the hard target. If the site is too deep or too critical, planners could consider MOP with a stealth bomber. But that choice depends on target depth, geology, risk, and politics. Not every mountain needs a 30,000-pound answer. A word on geology. Rock type matters. Hard granite resists. Layered sediment can crack. Reinforced concrete with high compressive strength resists spall. Designers of bunkers know this. They add standoff space, angled corridors, and blast traps. They try to force shock to spread and fade. Penetrator design counters that with delayed fusing and a casing that stays intact long enough to get inside. The goal is to put the blast where geometry cannot save the target. Accuracy matters too. A few feet off can hit a stronger part of the hill. Guidance upgrades help the tail steer toward the exact aim point. GPS gives coordinates. Inertial guidance keeps the path stable if GPS is jammed. Mission planning models wind, speed, and angle so the bomb arrives with the right impact velocity and obliquity. Impact angle. More speed and a good angle mean more depth. Finally, effects and assessment. Sensors watch for heat, gas, and dust patterns that mean an internal detonation. They log secondary explosions if stored munitions cook off. They watch comms patterns. They study whether the site goes dark and stays dark. If the enemy must seal the tunnel or pump out smoke for days, that is success. If command traffic shifts to a backup site, that is also an effect. The enemy loses time and rhythm. This is how a single hard target hit can change a campaign. It removes a safe haven. It breaks a link in the chain. It forces the enemy to move in the open, where other weapons can reach them. The first outcome was local and fast. The underground site went quiet. Entry points stayed shut. No workers moved in or out. The normal radio checks did not happen. Heat bled from the rock for hours, then fell off. That meant the blast was inside, not on the surface. If the site stored drones, fuel, or parts, those stocks were likely lost or damaged. If the site hosted a command room, the operators had to move. Either way, the target could not function on its normal cycle. That slowed the enemy's launch tempo. It forced them to pause, check damage, and shift plans. At sea, the pressure eased a bit. Crews still stood watch. Ships still tracked threats. But the rate of alerts dipped after the hit. Fewer ready launchers on shore meant fewer shots in the next hours and days. That matters at scale. Every intercept costs a missile. Every saved shot preserves magazines for the next wave. One fewer inbound threat can be the difference between a safe transit and a mayday. The strike did not end the danger. It bought time. It widened the margin. Operationally, the strike shaped follow-on missions. Recon flights focused on backup nodes. Signals teams watched for traffic moving to secondary circuits. If the enemy tried to restore the bunker, they had to bring trucks, tools, and people into the open. Those moves create new targets. If they abandoned the site, they lost a hardened hub and had to spread out into smaller, weaker locations. Either path drains resources and raises risk. That is how a hard target hit multiplies effects without more explosives. On the enemy side, the strike created friction. Leaders had to explain the loss and keep morale. Technicians had to rebuild without stable power or clean air. Security teams had to prevent leaks. The safest rooms no longer felt safe. That changes behavior. Crews grow cautious. They check more. They work slower. They move at night and make mistakes in the dark. Friction is not dramatic, but it erodes capacity day after day. It is how campaigns turn. Strategically, the message traveled farther than the blast. Regional actors saw that underground cover did not guarantee survival. Partners saw that the coalition could hit deep and clean when needed. Adversaries noted the mix of tools, defense at sea plus precision on land. That mix shows endurance. It shows the will to protect trade and crews without rushing into a wider war. It also signals discipline. The target was military. The timing avoided busy civilian hours. The tone from capitals was steady. This is pressure without spectacle. Globally, the lanes stayed open. Some shippers still chose the long route. Some returned with escorts and higher insurance. Prices reflected risk, but did not spike into chaos. This is the quiet success of a focused strike. It does not make headlines for weeks. It prevents worse headlines later. It gives diplomats room to work. It shows industry that security is not reactive only. It can be proactive, targeted, and lawful. Public reactions split along familiar lines. Some called the strike necessary and careful. Others warned of escalation and civilian harm. Both views appeared online within minutes. The record will settle over time as independent checks and images arrive. What can be said now is simple. The target was hardened and linked to attacks at sea. The weapon was built for such targets. The outcome reduced near-term threat and raised the cost of more strikes from underground. In modern conflict, that is a clear, measurable gain. It is not victory. It is momentum. And momentum, kept long enough, changes the map. War often looks loud, but the most important moves are quiet. A single deep strike can shift the pace of a whole campaign. It does not end a conflict. It changes choices. It forces the other side to spend time, parts, and people to catch up. That is power in modern war, shaping what the enemy can do tomorrow. 3 lessons stand out. First, the underground fight is here to stay. States and groups will dig deeper. They will use rock, concrete, and clever paths to hide gear and leaders. Air power must match that with better maps, smarter sensors, and stronger penetrators. The goal is not rubble on camera. The goal is a functional kill. No power, no airflow, no safe access. When the core systems die, the bunker is a cave with trash inside. Second, magazine depth decides who lasts. Ships and jets win when they have the right missiles in the right numbers at the right time. That means hard choices. Save interceptors for real threats. Rearm fast. Build more at home. Allies can help by sharing load and stocks. A steady supply beats a fast headline. Endurance is strategy. Third, the information fight shapes what the world believes. Claims are fast. Proof is slow. Militaries must speak clearly and only when sure. They should admit what they know and what they do not. This builds trust. It protects crews and partners. It also denies the enemy a win in the noise. There is also the moral side. Hard targets can sit near civilians. Good plans reduce risk. They choose times with fewer people outside. They pick angles that keep fragments in the hill. They use the least force that still works. Law matters. So does restraint. Strength without control invites bigger wars. Strength with control narrows the fight and protects the innocent. What comes next? The seas will stay tense. The enemy will adapt. They will move. They will try new tricks. The answer is simple but hard. Keep watch, keep pressure, and keep standards. Use precision.